motor's in, got it running, plumbed everything up. We're getting a problem with the water mixing in the oil in the water. So I drained it all out, new oil, new water, kept happening. So it's most likely going to be the oil cooler because it's a fresh motor. So turbo off, brackets off, alternator off, hoses off, get the cooler off. Couldn't appear to be anything wrong, so it must have been a pinhole somewhere in the cooling. Got another cooler, glued it all back up, new gaskets, put that back on. We've solved that problem. Now driving around today, we see it's absolutely buckling out, oil out of the back. So pull the gearbox off to have a look at the rear main. Rear main's fine. So it looks like there's just a tiny gap, and the sump didn't seal properly. So now sump's got to come back off, seal that back up, put it back in. The biggest problem in any conversion, especially in a car like this with such a short engine bay, is like a cooling setup. It's always the hardest thing to get one that works well, or get one that fits or whatever. So what I've done here is, that's a fan off the early model 2.2 diesel. It's a lot shorter viscous hub and it fits in there, but in doing that, because I'm running power steering, it's actually caused a problem with the power steering because it hit the pulleys initially. So I had a couple old pulleys off some old motors lying around. I had one that was dead flush that bolts onto the crank pulley, and then I got another power steering pulley off a 3Y motor, I believe, and that runs flush as well because the original ones sit out a bit, and I think that's if you run air conditioning as well. But we're only running power steering, so that clears the fan. And then for a radiator, this is the radiator out of a LN106, or what you'd get, what this motor came out of, that's the correct radiator for it. So in theory, it should be enough cooling capacity. We haven't really had it running long enough to check, but it fits in there. Down the bottom there's probably 10 mil space, which should be fine, as long as one of the engine mounts don't come flying off. I couldn't imagine it flexing that far and hitting. So yeah, and to run this radiator in here, just had to trim a little bit off the sides of it, the actual radiator bracket, drill new holes so it lines up with the original rad support on this car, and then just make some spaces so when you tighten it up it doesn't pull in and bend the radiator. Just about 7 mil spaces on the bottom, about 3 mil spaces on the top, and that sits in there really nicely. And you also got to be careful when you put this in. You can either get your top tank changed, or what I've done is just set it down lower so your bonnet can still close, because they do have an issue with hitting the radiator. I've made a steel pipe down here because you don't want a rubber hose kind of bouncing around near your fan and your pulleys. So that's mounted to where the shroud used to bolt on. I've just welded a metal bracket to a piece of pipe that I've bent to a 90 degree. And that joins on with the radiator down there, and then I've just run a pipe here. I'm going to change this later. This is just temporary to see if it will run. And the best way when you're doing any custom cooling setup, or if you're doing this car, the best way is to go to your local auto parts store, is what I did. Get them to let you look through the shelves and just know what sort of pipe you need. No, for this one I need a 90 degree this way, and then I need a 90 degree down. You look through the shelves, find something off another car that looks good enough, and cut it to work. I think we might. So now I've got the sump off to reseal it. It's a good time to show you what I've done for the turbo drain. Just got a 90-degree bit of pipe there, grounded it down so the hose fits over it, same size as what's on the turbo. Just welded that in and welded it in on inside and outside. When you weld it, just be careful not to put too much heat in it or you'll warp the sump. But that's what I've done there, and it's better to do it this way. It's a little bit extra, even if you have to send it to someone to weld in. It's better than teeing off your alternator drain. There's just not enough oil flowing. Even if it's an oil and water cooled turbo, it's mainly cooling is all to do with oil. So you really want a good flow through your turbos. A lot less drama, so it's a much better way to do it.